and welcome to episode 3 of the Low Side Podcast. This is a podcast where 3, sometimes 4 people get around and talk about whatever is on their mind. I'm one of your hosts, Nate. I'm joined with Steve.
Hello, hello.
Alex.
Hey, guys.
And a very special guest, Justin.
Yes, I'm very special and important, and that's why I decided to be on today.
Co-host of the 800 plus subscriber YouTube channel Out of the Basement.
Ballin'.
That was a joke. Please don't take that seriously. But Justin is my co-host, one of my co-hosts on the YouTube channel. So we're happy to have him on the show today. We've got a great show planned out for you. But before we do that, quick social media plug here. If you have a topic suggestion or you just want to send us a question or a concern, please email us at thelowsidepodcast@gmail.com. Of course, you can check us out on Facebook at The Low Side Podcast, Twitter at The Low Side Podcast, where you can participate in our random Twitter polls, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And then Instagram, we are at The Low Side Podcast, where we post a lot of behind-the-scenes photos while we're recording the episode and show off our DIY sound panels and whatnot. It's a good time. So, Alex.
Yes.
What do we have planned for the show today?
Well, just to give you guys some context, it is Tuesday, April 10th, so all of our current events will be taking place around this time. First up, we have the Conor McGregor incident that happened over the weekend, right?
Yep, last week.
We'll be talking about some stuff going on YouTube.
Ooh.
Yep. We are going to talk a little bit about Black Panther and its box office records.
Cool.
From there, we're going to take it to Shredy's take on A Quiet Place.
Nice.
And then after that, our main segment will be about the internet, social media, and in real life streams.
What a loaded episode.
Yep.
Absolute massive.
It's an absolute unit.
It is an absolute
lots to
unit
talk
of an
about.
episode.
Yeah.
So one thing I want to say is, so we started doing random Twitter polls just because I thought it would be funny and a nice form of engagement. So our first Twitter poll was, do you brush your teeth with warm or cold water? Very hot button issue. You know, a lot
Very
of ins,
controversial.
a lot of ins, a lot of outs with that. So I just wanted to say, with 13 votes on the poll, cold water won with 69% of the
See,
votes.
that's not
warm
good.
water.
I was one of those votes.
Yeah, see, you're doing it wrong.
With
You're
warm
doing it-
water going 31%.
Okay, so let me ask you guys this. Why? I don't understand.
Let me give you a hypothetical.
I'm not talking like ice cold water either. I'm just talking like I turn my faucet on and, you know, it's the regular temperature that it's at when I turn it on.
So if you are in the wild and you want to drink some water, do you boil that water to kill all those germs?
No, I'm at my house, Justin. We're not doing this.
Well, you
just follow him along. Just follow him along.
all right.
You probably should.
Yeah, because
You
otherwise,
should probably filter it
So-
out some way.
You know, all those germs on that toothbrush. Wouldn't you want hot water going on there instead of cold?
Now he raises an excellent point, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, but here's the thing with that. Wouldn't you just clean the toothbrush, you know, every once in a while?
Yeah,
Not
I actually
necessarily
never
using
thought
hot-
of that, but I usually just replace my toothbrushes when they
Yeah, I
get
know,
a little
but
how
Yeah.
often? Because I do it every 3 months.
Isn't that what you're supposed to do?
Do you have it like on a schedule there?
It's pretty close, yeah. When it comes to oral hygiene,
Yeah.
I try to keep it on schedule.
You know those little plastic things that like get, I don't know, in between your teeth or your gums, like the little plastic tabs on there? Once those start falling off,
then you replace
that's when
it.
I go to
What
replace.
about you, Nate?
Yeah.
You don't brush your teeth, do you?
No, yeah, I definitely brush my teeth. That would be a bad time if I did not. But pretty much every 3 months, like the dentist recommends you. They're like, here, take all these toothbrushes, and I'm like, thank you.
Yeah.
So
And they're always free, which is awesome.
yeah,
Very true.
So
Very
be on the
true.
lookout on our Twitter for the next random poll that we put out. It's going to be a banger. So Alex, do you want to take us to the first topic today?
Yes, there's actually one I forgot to mention, but this past weekend was the Chicago Comic-Con.
Hey.
C2E2, which none of us were able to attend, unfortunately. I'm still getting feedback on this mic. Sorry, guys, if we're having any technical issues. I'm not sure what's going on, but Our cords are being jerks today, but
Hopefully
I guess
it's
we'll
not
just
too bad.
we'll just carry on. No, it's real faint.
Who do we know that went to C2E2?
We know quite a few people that went to C2E2.
Yep.
One of those was my girlfriend. She had a great time. But, I thought we'd talk about some past experiences maybe.
Ooh.
Just to give some people an idea of what goes on at that kind of event, since, probably a lot of our listeners either are interested in something like that or they have never been and they'd like to know more information about it.
Yeah.
So Nate, did you go last year? Or it was the year before that we went together.
Yeah, I haven't gone the past 2 years. I don't really have a good reason. I just haven't felt like going because I went for 4 years in a row. So
Yeah.
I've had my fill of that, and it definitely gets repetitive to a certain extent. But
Sure.
I always enjoy going to comic book conventions because mostly I like to go as an opportunity to meet, like comic book artists and writers. Obviously, there's also like celebrities there you could meet, but the big draw for me is those discount comic books, baby.
Yep.
There's tons of vendors there. They sell a wide variety of nerdy culture things like paintings and comic books and action figures and all that good stuff that I love. So pretty much usually my objective at C2E2 is to just buy a ton of comic books. And then I don't end up reading them anyway, and they just sit on my shelf because I buy like 50 of them at a time.
But they look good on that shelf.
Oh, the shelf looks great. It's got all those nice crisp comic books. But Alex, I know that I always thought it kind of surprised me at first when you were like, yeah, I like to go to C2E2 just because you don't like strike me as like a super into it person.
Right.
So why do you like to go?
I like the environment. I like going out to Chicago and just going out and doing things, I guess, like that. I like entertainment as a whole, no matter what form. Some forms more than other. But I think it's cool to walk around and see all the different artwork and things like that, people dressing up. I don't personally like to dress up. I have 1 year, but it's not something I am going to do every year. No real reason. I just don't want to spend the money on a costume every year because that kind of hobby can get expensive, and my filmmaking hobby is already expensive enough, so I'm not gonna get into that. But yeah, I like seeing all the artwork, the celebrities too. Funny enough, I guess the first real famous person that's an actor that I've ever seen in real life was Melissa Benoist when she came for the Supergirl panel.
Oh, nice.
2 years ago. So
She's hot.
yeah, that's part of the reason why I went. But she was in Whiplash, and I really liked her in Whiplash. So,
Great movie.
Yes. So I thought, why not go check that out? They got a lot of celebrities. My girlfriend met Tom Kenny over the weekend.
Oh,
the voice actor for SpongeBob.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Also in the hit HBO TV show Mr. Show, which I recommend to all of you guys.
And the hit 2009 film Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, aka Shreddy's favorite film.
Yep.
He's in that movie?
Yeah, he plays one of the twins,
Oh, that's
the
disappointing.
little
Yeah.
Okay.
Autobot twins.
Yeah, that's not
So
good.
back on track.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. They actually get some pretty decent talent that comes
Yeah.
out. Like this weekend, they had Dave Bautista come out.
Yeah, they had a couple of the Guardians.
Yeah.
None of the main people, but
Right.
yeah, it's funny you mentioned cosplaying because I also dressed up once 1 year, and you'd be surprised that no matter how crappy your costume is, the amount of people that still want to take your picture because they think your costume is cool.
Yeah. Like I went as a pretty sloppy Burt Macklin from Parks and Recreation.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, and I got stopped a lot.
Yeah, the year I went, I dressed up like Black Manta, who is the villain of Aquaman. Real deep cut for you guys out there. And my costume was like the helmet and the trident looked great because I didn't make it, but then I just ended up wearing black jeans and a black t-shirt underneath for my costume. So it's like I was just wearing a helmet.
Yeah, it's more about the effort than anything else.
Yeah.
So
You're there with everybody, so
yeah. So for someone who hasn't been, what's the price tag to go to C2E2?
well, they have the 3-day pass, which is kind of the cheapest option if you're looking to go more than 1 day. Then they have the individual days. I think this year the 3-day pass was $80, and then each day is somewhere between 30 and 40. I don't know.
So what are the hours for this? Like you pay your money, and then when's it start?
It's
When's
pretty
it
much
end?
all day.
Yeah.
I think it starts around 10 or 11 and runs until about 7 or 8, maybe, depending on the day.
And
then,
it's-
sorry, go ahead.
It's not like that big of a space to where you really even need that much time. Like
Yeah, you can power through everything in 1 day.
Yeah.
I always hear the biggest thing is waiting for autographs. Like that's either the biggest
Yeah.
waste of time. You either spend all day waiting for a certain someone, or you kind of get through because the guy's or girl's not really popular.
So me personally, I don't really understand the whole stand in line and get an autograph with somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if there was somebody who I really wanted to meet, I would do something like that, but I've never thought of anybody who I thought to myself, you know what, I would stand in line for 3 hours to meet this person.
Like Stan Lee.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I mean, it's cool. I think it'd be cool to meet him, but I'm not going to stand in a line for 6 hours to meet him.
So was that the year that we went when Stan Lee was there? I think
he's been there the last couple of times. I think last year was his last year that he was going.
Yeah,
but he was definitely there the year that we went.
The line for him was insane.
Yeah,
like snake coiled around the McCormick place. So yeah, C2E2 was this weekend. Hopefully everyone that went had a lot of fun. Wish we could have been there. I would have liked to go, but hey, there's always next year. So moving on, Alex, take us to our next topic.
So in other entertainment news, Black Panther surpassed Titanic domestically before inflation. I'm just going to say that. But it is the number 3 movie domestically ever.
Wow.
As far as box office total. So, I mean, it's a superhero movie, whatever, but I still think that's a pretty huge accomplishment, especially for a movie like that. So, I mean, I'm hoping that's going to open up a lot more doors to more diverse films, as well as far as like big studio movies.
It is interesting to me that it's like a solo superhero movie that brought in so much money, because obviously you see big numbers. Like the first Avengers movie, I think obviously made a ton of cash.
Right.
Same thing with, even though it underperformed, like Batman versus Superman, still super successful movie. So it always seems like, the real big popular superhero movies are always the team up movies. So I think that's pretty cool that a solo superhero film was able to rise to the top.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before inflation, of course.
Before inflation, but whatever. It doesn't matter. It still broke a pretty big barrier, I would say.
Agree.
So moving on, we have the Conor McGregor incident, which you guys have a little more intel on that.
Yeah, fill us in, Steve.
Steve, take it away. Tell us what's going on with Conor McGregor.
All right. So with Conor McGregor, I don't know if you guys heard last week, Conor got into a little bit of a scuffle with an enemy camp.
He went a little crazy.
Yeah, he went a little too far with this one. And basically, there are some rival camps in the UFC. There's Conor McGregor's team, and part of his team is a fighter named Artem Lobov. I want to say he's Russian, okay? And he was getting into it with Habib Nurmagomedov at a Brooklyn hotel lobby. There was a fight going to be this weekend at the Barclays Center, which is in Brooklyn. And basically, Habib and Artem were in the hotel lobby, and they were exchanging words. They were kind of just, cussing each other out, getting each other's faces. And Artem, like I said, who's on McGregor's team, and this got back to McGregor, who was also in Brooklyn at the time, caught wind of it and flew 20 of his buddies from Ireland on a plane to the Barclays Center. And they got in. They had access from the inside, with Conor's team being there. There's, they have not special rights, but they have certain entryways that they'll go into where they're only going to be on that half of the building, and so on and so forth. So those guys were let in. And they got into the loading docks, which is below the stadium, where all the players, regular like basketball players, hockey players, any kind of major event would go on. The VIP loading dock, that's where they got into. And Habib's bus was being loaded to leave. And they were done with their practice. They were done with whatever was going on. And Conor and his buddies decided to start throwing dollies. They threw chairs at the bus with all these people were loaded on this bus, and they were causing some serious damage.
Tons of video evidence. It's honestly insane that there's one specific part where Conor just picks up a dolly over his head and just throws it straight through the window of the bus.
There's memes everywhere now with Conor McGregor's face, they stole my Fruit Loops.
Yeah.
There's just different pictures they put on there.
There's now, he's been memed from one of the angles, various angles, but then he ended up actually getting arrested, right, Steve?
Yeah, he actually turned himself in. He was arrested by the New York, police department, and he is now facing 3 counts of assault and 1 count of criminal mischief, and he is scheduled to have a court date on June 12th. So basically, the part that makes me kind of it bugs me about this is this guy has the world at his fingertips. This guy makes so much money off of UFC. I was doing some research online, and his net worth right now as of 2018 is $85 billion.
Billion?
So, billion.
No.
No way.
No. Look it up. You'll find.
I can see that.
Yeah, you can find it with endorsements, with all these deals,
No,
and then the Mayweather
85
fight.
million.
No, look it up. Look it up.
I'm pretty
It's
sure
on there.
Mark Zuckerberg doesn't even have $85 billion.
Sure he does. He has more. Justin, do a quick search, dude.
All right.
Anyway, Dana White is super disgusted about all this, and he is not getting any kind of financial help with this. He's not getting any kind of bailout money or anything. And Dana White was just expressing his disgust with Conor McGregor. And I would say, as a fan of the sport and just sports athletes in general, if you go out and you do something that is going to cause you some sort of like criminal activity and you're going to get thrown in jail or prison or whatever it is, I don't feel bad for you. You know what I mean? You did this on your own. I feel like there is a level of respect that you have for yourself, for the sport, whatever that sport may be, that it needs to be taken into account. And if you kind of go outside those boundaries and do something stupid like this, you get what's going to come to you, whatever it is. And it's just, it's silly.
What do we got, Justin?
You're not going to like this, Steve.
Ooh.
It was 85 million, wasn't it?
85 trillion?
Well, according to Forbes' profile,
Is that
34 million.
That's from 2016. It should be.
Yeah, but you're not going to shoot up from 34 million to 85 billion.
Well,
in
he
2
has
years.
he has had a lot of endorsements recently, and then the
Still.
Mayweather fight. I'm just saying, like that's
Well,
just
yeah, I mean, the
he's gonna
Mayweather
make-
fight has definitely boosted it.
regardless,
since then.
he has money.
I was gonna say, bottom line,
Right. He has more money than any of us. And it's
yeah.
just silly that he's got himself into this and now he's going to be, facing these criminal charges. I don't feel bad for him. And neither does Dana White. He's Dana White's expressed his disgust. Where do you go from here? What do you do if you're Conor McGregor?
He also didn't he injure some people on the bus too, from him and his crew throwing chairs and stuff on the inside?
Yeah, Habib has a few coaches on that bus that were injured in the attack, and they were, they weren't even part of this scuffle. They're just coaches from the other team. They were injured. There were actually some fighters inside the bus that were scheduled to fight this past weekend. They were scrapped because they were deemed physically unfit to fight. So the UFC was scrambling for secondary fighters this weekend, and that's them out of money, and it's not cool. People pay for a certain fight, they want to see it, and then this stuff happens.
This is such a odd, zany story. Flying 20 of your Irishmen out to a hotel just to do that, and honestly, I hate sports drama like this.
It feels very WWE like. That's what it feels like to me.
It almost seems like one of those little short
Conspiracy.
clip storylines that you would find, Vince McMahon.
It's funny that you mentioned conspiracy, Alex, because there are legitimate conspiracies going around right now that this whole Conor McGregor thing is staged and it's just fixed like the WWE, which I really don't think so. I don't think that would be faked like this, at least faked so well, because the WWE is clearly not real.
It obviously wouldn't be a publicity stunt because he already has the publicity.
Right.
He doesn't need any more.
And
that's debatable.
But
people always want to overdo themselves.
If you were going to do a stunt like this, why would you want to injure other people who are supposed to be fighting the same weekend? Like, if it was all supposed to be planned out, then why would they do that to themselves?
And that's what I mean. Like, I feel like you're going to do this, keep it in the sport. Keep it within the match itself. Like, if you want to settle the score with Habib, accept the match from him, because I feel Habib would destroy him. That's just something I would see happening. McGregor is not very good on the floor, as you guys all know. He's more of a striker, but he would get demolished. But settle it in the ring where it's supposed to be. This is what the UFC is about, not outside of the ring when it's in a parking lot or a garage area. It's not cool.
Agreed. So, Conor, get your shit straight, man.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the next topic. We have the Facebook incident from this last, week or two?
Yeah, it's been
around
going
there.
on for about a week or two.
I'll just briefly touch on this just because, that's going to be our main topic today. But Mark Zuckerberg testified against Congress today about everything with the privacy issues. That's what I was reading. Something like that. But we'll get more into that later. I just wanted to mention that he looked like a robot as usual. So nothing out of the ordinary there.
He's a lizard.
Yep. And then this past weekend, I think it was Sunday, that it was reported that YouTube is changing their Kids app to be monitored by humans rather than an algorithm now.
Hey, maybe that's a good idea.
Yes.
Yes.
So just to touch on this a little bit, there's a phrase going around called Elsagating, or just Elsagate.
Yeah.
Essentially what this is that these YouTube channels are creating content that looks kid friendly, but it's not. So there's a lot of
it's creepy.
Yeah,
it's very creepy.
It's been going on for a very long time. I don't know if you guys know that meme or Vine, but with the Spider-Man, the two people in Spider-Man suits, and they're slapping
slapping each other's
That's in
asses.
these predators pretty much like you said, they market the videos as like toys. It'll be
Yeah.
like, oh, cool Spider-Man toy video. And then it'll be like some weird, creepy, pedophile Spider-Man guy in a suit. And
Like
it's-
pregnant Elsa gives birth to
Yeah.
Spider-Man's child, who
Yeah.
is the Joker or something.
Yep, and then the picture, the thumbnail will have like Elsa, spread eagle, blood everywhere, and
It's-
then it's
Yeah.
and it looks kid friendly. Like maybe at first glance you wouldn't notice it, but if you sat there and stared at it for a second, you'd be like, oh,
Like
shit.
it's fucking weird.
Yeah.
it's definitely, and that side of YouTube has always been a thing, but it's not really talked about this much to this light. There's always, everyone always says, oh, I'm on the weird side of YouTube now, but this is just like taking it to the next level
Yeah.
of creepiness.
Elsagate could honestly be like a topic of its own for like an entire episode, because just how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Yeah.
Like if you just want to get into like the comments on some of these videos and everything, like it just gets absolutely insane and creepy if you look into it. So I'm glad that YouTube has figured out that, hey, maybe we should actually monitor the kids app instead of just having an algorithm play these creepy videos over and over again.
Yeah, and the algorithm is too harsh anyway. I mean, obviously it can't determine what is toxic content or not, because we've seen our reviews just for having the word sucks in the title get demonetized, or dead, as in our Walking Dead video, which is a TV show, got demonetized for having the word dead in the title. So I think having humans with common sense, hopefully, reviewing videos is going to be way better.
Now, in a perfect world, we'd get that for all of YouTube, but that would never happen.
This could be the beginning. I mean, maybe if they see how well this goes, maybe they'll switch back, but
Yeah.
pipe dreams.
So good on you, YouTube. You're doing something kind of right for once.
Yeah, for once.
For sure.
All right, moving on. We're going to Shreddy's take on A Quiet Place.
Ooh.
So, A Quiet Place premiered this previous Friday. It was directed and starring John Krasinski, and along with his wife, Emily Blunt, who I know we are all fans of.
Yes.
So essentially, it is a post-apocalyptic movie about a family living in a world where humans live with creatures that hunt with sound. These creatures are highly sensitive to noise and will hunt within a close proximity of that noise. Plot-wise, I think it's pretty similar to It Comes at Night for the most part.
Somewhat.
Yeah, not so much story, but just the actual plot. And then I feel like the writers found a real good way to put a spin on that to make it fresh.
I totally, I don't mean to cut you off, but like, it's funny that I mentioned that, because I really do feel like a lot of this movie was kind of like the version of it. Like when people saw It Comes at Night, they probably expected a movie like this,
Yeah.
as opposed to what It Comes at Night really is.
It's funny. They kind of look similar too.
Right.
Just
The colors and like just the sort of situation that they're in is
Yeah.
is obviously, well, it's not similar, but post-apocalyptic, you could call it.
Right.
So I didn't go out and Sredy.
So I want to talk about what I loved about it. I noticed in the very first shot that it was shot on film. So I give movies respect a lot, if they just do that, even if it sucks, because they're still using film, which I think is very important. Not a lot of dialogue.
Yeah.
Very, very bare minimum dialogue. They kept it nice and tight, which I think is also important. I wish I could take note of that, because sometimes I over dialogue and sometimes I under dialogue, so I'm still trying to figure that out myself. They actually used a deaf actor on this that played a deaf character, which, there's a lot of complaints with that with Shape of Water.
Right.
Which makes no sense because the character was not deaf. So I don't really see the argument there. But, whatever. Moving on from that. It's visually stunning from beginning to end. I think you guys can agree on that. They used the same cinematographer from Fences, Molly's Game, and Girl on a Train. So I'm going to guess that Emily Blunt probably brought her on. I'm not sure, just because she was on Girl on a Train. Let's see here. Very tense, very suspenseful. I really like that. Real tight runtime at 1 hour and 25 minutes without credits.
It's a breeze.
Yeah. Now, that doesn't always mean that it's going to be like this movie, because the new Strangers movie was 1 hour and 15 minutes without the credits, and that movie felt twice as long as this one. So, discussion for a different time. Well, not really, because I'm never going to talk about that movie ever again. I just want to erase it from my brain, but, whatever. I love that John Krasinski wore a lot of hats and didn't fall into the typical Office stereotype. He can, go beyond comedy, which I find really respectful. What do I think that people will probably have some issues with as far as like the normies, I guess? Because
The
I got
casuals.
this. Yeah, the
Hey, guys.
casuals.
Typicals.
Hey guys.
The typicals, the Steves. We're just going to refer to them as the Steves.
We might as well, because Steve, did you see this movie?
Your guess is as good as mine. No.
Yeah, I know. I just wanted you to say it.
Yeah, it's well known. I don't really watch them.
Yes. So there are some logic issues. I'm not going to go off because I don't want to give away any spoilers in this one. And I'm trying to keep this review a little tight so we don't talk about it for a half hour like we
Right.
did Ready Player One. But maybe the lack of dialogue, because sometimes the quietness will make people feel awkward. I don't really feel like that is a thing for this movie, just because there's a lot going on and it is super suspenseful, but that might turn some people off. I don't want to say that the ending is ambiguous like It Comes at Night is. Like, it's not wrapped up in a pretty bow like most movies, which is another thing that I respected about it, and it kind of got me hyped. But some people were complaining about the ending, which I don't get. But yeah, that's all I think that people won't like about this movie. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that general audiences seem to be responding so well to this movie. With the theater I saw it with Justin. Pretty crowded theater.
Yeah.
And they were pretty silent, which was very surprising.
Yeah.
The same
that-
in my theater as well.
That was my number one fear. A PG-13 film being marketed as a horror film. It's PG-13, and it's mostly silent with minor noise. You know?
Yes.
And that was just my number one fear, was people either screaming, yelling, talking. And the loudest thing that we got in our theater was that guy who took out one M&M at a time
Yeah.
and crinkled his entire
And
bag
opened the can of pop like right in the middle of a super quiet scene.
in slow motion. As well.
Yeah. So I really think that that's awesome. It just goes to show like how from the minute the movie starts, how captivating it is. And you know what the stakes are right away. Even before the creatures are revealed to you, you just know.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, they all have to be extremely quiet. So when that spaceship falls right at the beginning, you're like instantly right off the bat on the edge of your
This
seat.
shouldn't be
like,
happening.
Yeah.
Like,
I-
oh shit.
Yeah.
So
I wish that wasn't the trailer, because one of the trailers is almost that pretty much entire beginning sequence, and it would have been so much more shocking to me if that.
Yeah, I guess. I
Wasn't-
mean, I still thought it was well done enough to where I don't remember seeing too many trailers on it. I try to avoid, this is a discussion Nate and I had last week, but I try to avoid trailers as much as possible if I
Right.
can. So I think I only saw the trailer for this movie once.
Nice.
So, once I remember him playing with the spaceship in the trailer that happened, right?
yeah.
So that was pretty much the only thing I remembered for the whole thing.
I was gonna say I have mad props for the trailer because I went back and I looked at it, and not a whole lot of anything outside of the first half hour of the movie is in the trailer.
Yeah.
Especially like in the trailer, the big lantern scene. I thought that was going to be like a later part of the movie, like that, like maybe that was what kind of started the whole incident. Would be that, but obviously we know that it takes a very different route, and that's not really like a consequence to the plot or anything. It's just kind of like a real tense moment.
Yeah. One more thing I wanted to add about what people might not like about this is the lack of context of what is happening in this world. We don't really know why these creatures are here,
You don't need to.
what's happening. And yeah, I don't think that's important. I think we're in this world with these people in this moment, and that's really all you need to know.
Could you say this movie's about family?
Yep, it's
Yeah.
about family.
People need over explanation. They want to watch Ready Player One again for the over explanation of
Oh,
the
boy.
plot.
Here
It's
we go.
just you don't need it all the time, people, all right? Just use your imagination.
That's true. Show the cardinal rule of filmmaking is show, don't tell. And this movie definitely is a great example of how to do a movie well without explaining too much.
And just to wrap up sort of our thoughts on the movie, I would say that I think, Justin, you and I agree that the ending, sort of like what they figure out, we were just kind of like,
Yeah, not to sound like a normie or anything, but
no spoilers, Justin, but
I thought the ending was really silly, and I did not like the ending at all.
So
really.
I'm going just to add on to that I think that goes with some of the logic issues that I was
Yeah.
talking about.
it was just a little unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'm a believer that if 90% of the movie is good. That 10% that's not really doesn't matter.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that the ending ruined the whole movie for me, but I think this movie is a perfect example of what I would like to call a one-timer.
A one and done.
A one and done, where you watch the movie one time. Another movie like this for me, and I know Alex, you agree, is like Bridge of Spies.
Yeah.
Like a really good, well-made movie, but you watch it once and then just don't really have a desire to ever go back and revisit it. But
It's going to be tough because this was another, like when I was talking about Ready Player One last week, the theater experience, this is another good, like,
Right.
theater movie.
and you're
for
never
sure.
going to be able to emulate how it was in the theater when you're sitting at home on the couch.
Yeah,
So
the suspense. and
the suspense just
intensity.
won't be the same, and nor like like the kind of high of the tension in the theater
Right.
that you feel. I don't know, when I'm in a crowd and it's real tense like that, like just the way I was eating my popcorn and I was drinking my drink, I was just taking little light sips.
I saw Nate's the crane hand.
the crane
Go for
hand,
the drink.
little light sips,
Yeah.
grab the popcorn, little
Wait.
crunch.
And that's not saying that just because a movie is mainly suspense
Yeah.
doesn't mean, like, we're not saying, oh, it doesn't have rewatchability just because it's suspenseful, because It Comes at Night is incredibly suspenseful, and I want to watch that once a year until the day I die.
Great movie.
So I don't know, and it does feel really weird to me to say I didn't like the ending, because
Well,
one
when you're
thing
talking about the ending, you're not talking about like the actual ending.
We're not talking
Right.
about the
So, like,
that.
the
from
final chapter.
So they're speaking more of like the, not really the plot twist, but just a key piece of information that they figure out they don't really agree with.
Yeah, and like I was saying, it feels kind of weird for me to say I didn't like the ending, because that is such a casual thing to say, because people say that about every single ending made by man is never going to satisfy anyone. People say that all the time, whether you're with your
Except for
friends
Cashing Out.
in the theater. There is just no ending that satisfies people, and
Except
I
for
love
Cashing Out.
ambiguous endings. Does Cashing Out have an ambiguous ending?
No, but it has a fucking great ending.
Oh,
Blade
okay.
Runner 2049.
Yeah, I love ambiguous endings.
Me
though,
too.
And it really hurts when people hate on them.
Yeah. So if we had to each give a score on it, I'll start first.
Well, before we do that,
Okay.
I'm going to wrap up my thoughts.
Wrap it up.
So I wanted to add, I didn't really add this last week to Ready Player One, but I wanted to talk about who I think will like this movie. So I have a small list there. I think horror fans in general will appreciate this movie. Anybody who just likes suspense, because I don't think I don't know if I want to call it like a horror movie. You know what I mean? I don't think it's not like there's not a ton of jump scares. It's just real suspenseful. The monsters are definitely a big part of it, but they're not in it so much to where I'd necessarily call it a horror movie. Like there's no blood.
Yeah,
There's
it's
no
more suspense.
gore.
There's not really any horror elements.
It's kind of like how, Get Out is classified as a horror movie
Yeah.
somewhat.
Yeah, this is classified as an American horror film directed by John Krasinski. Like you said, that's on Wikipedia.
Right.
So.
I don't think it's so artsy like It Comes at Night to where it will piss people off. So I guess call it a more mainstream It Comes at Night if you saw that movie and didn't like it. But whatever. I loved It Comes at Night, so I'm not trying to like bash it or anything. It's just that's just what came to mind when I started
I think
thinking
that
about
is a
it.
good example, because like people wanted the monster to come out.
Yeah.
I wanted zombies.
Yeah, and
for It Comes at Night.
get the monster just the right amount. Like it's not so much to where it's like this is
And they look
silly.
good.
Yeah,
They
I
do
would
look
say,
good.
Surprisingly.
do the monsters look good, or were they like the monsters and creatures from like The Village, where you're just like, really?
They're CGI.
Really?
but
They're
they look
CGI
surprisingly
monsters.
good.
Okay.
And I think the thing about that is because they show the creatures so little that they definitely because it costs money to make these creatures, so they save that part of the budget just so to make them look good enough for the short amount of time that they're on screen. Which I think is fine.
Does it look like super CG? Does it look bad?
I mean,
or is it?
it's a CG monster, so
Sure.
it is, but no,
It's-
not really.
Because I know you guys have talked about it on your show on Out of the Basement, how there's good CG, graphics in movies, and then there's just downright terrible
Well,
looking.
you always use CG to enhance your film instead of making your entire film CG.
I would say it's not like War for the Planet of the Apes level CG, but it is still very good. You could obviously tell it's CG, but it was a lot better than I expected.
Yeah, it's not like CG overload like something like Justice League or any of those
Or-
types
Right.
of movies where everything you're looking at on the screen
Is
is
CG, yeah.
a computer.
And it wasn't wasn't so low budget to where the monsters just looked bad.
And that's what I was kind of getting at. They don't look.
Yeah, it
they,
wasn't
They look good.
George Lucas special edition Star Wars bad.
Yeah. Okay. So that's all the thoughts. Oh, the last thought I have was that I don't think it's going to bore people. But I think we established that.
So what would you give it out of 10?
I'm going to give it 9 out of 10 spaceships.
Wow. 9 out of 10 spaceships. I'm going to give A Quiet Place 7 quiet places out of 10.
All right.
Justin, what about you?
I like my decimals.
Oh, yeah.
I'm feeling a 7.62 for A Quiet
Okay,
Place.
that's just a little absurd.
That's the size of skateboard that I ride. Fun fact there.
Fun
Yep,
fact.
fun fact.
I was going more PUBG. I
There
need
you go.
7.62.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean. So let's move on to our main topic.
Main topic.
Main topic of the show, which is what, Alex?
The internet, social media, and IRL streams
Which stands for in real life.
in real life.
For
Yeah.
all you folks out there listening.
And I'm just now getting into this thanks to Nady Boy over here.
I mean, I don't really get into IRL streams, but just there's something about watching like the compilations of like people getting confronted in public that's just, it's so addicting.
Yeah.
So Nate, why don't you go ahead and explain to us, since you're kind of, you know more about this than
You're the
Steve and I.
IRL stream
Yeah,
guru here.
what is IRL streams?
So pretty much IRL streams are people who literally just stream their life, just what they do on a day-to-day basis. Andy Milonakis, if anyone out there remembers him, he's a pretty big IRL streamer right now, and they just go around, eat food, drive around, hang out with their friends. It's like very normal shit, but every once in a while something insane happens, and then you get these wonderful compilations of
People just get drawn in from it. Like, I am a prime example. When we watched, Ice Poseidon is his name,
yeah,
right?
Ice Poseidon.
Man, it's simple things, and it's just, it draws you in. And,
And
I would watch the next 2 hours just this guy getting kicked out repeately from Walmart.
And
I loved it.
And you see like how different people act towards him, knowing that he has like a camera on.
Yeah.
Like it.
They
like,
get really defensive.
Yeah, a lot of people are defensive and aggressive
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of situations. And granted, I mean, sometimes not every IRL streamer, but there's certainly some of them egg people on intentionally.
Right.
But then some people just get the random crazy person that comes up to them that's like, freaking out.
So let me ask you this then. What's kind of the difference between this and, like, say something Jake Paul does with the daily vlogging? Like, I mean, I know there's the obvious difference, but what do you think makes it more compelling to watch somebody like Ice Poseidon versus Jake Paul?
I think it's
You
real.
could say that
Right.
they're
Yeah, it's not
I was going to
scripted.
say it's not
equally
scripted.
raw.
douchey,
And
for
then
sure.
what could happen, whatever the outcome is, it's always at random. It's always,
Yeah,
it's undecided.
With a vlog, like something like Jake Paul, clearly he has his days like planned out with super eventful shit that it's not like a realistic portrayal of life, because you're not every day, you're not, getting a
every day,
brand
bro.
new Lambo, and then you're not doing some other crazy stuff like, fake donating money to a live streamer.
But at the same time, why would you want to watch normal everyday life when you can just live it
And that's
yourself?
what I'm saying. Like, people get so drawn in. I mean, I know I'm not the only one who is, this is very, very new to me as of last week. And I was talking to my wife about it. There is literally an audience for everything that you want to watch.
Yeah.
There's anything you want to watch. You want to watch someone make cake? People make
Yeah,
cakes on YouTube.
that is a thing now.
You want to watch someone, take care of dogs, or you can learn sign language. Someone will teach you that. There's an audience for anything that you want to learn out there, thanks to the internet. And it's crazy what people will watch.
Yeah. And I mean, these dudes are super successful.
Yeah, and they're making money off this.
So are they charismatic, or do they talk directly to the
Well, I
to
mean,
the
you
stream?
kind of have to have some charisma to keep people entertained, because if, like, okay, so, like, I want to say that, would you guys agree that I do some interesting things sometimes?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
So, like, I made a movie, that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Okay, so that, I look at that as the big picture, but if you watch my day-to-day life of putting those things together, you would be bored as shit.
Well,
every single day.
See, I would be the audience member who would want to watch that stuff. I am more likely to watch behind the scenes of.
But what if I didn't talk? So I'm just like silent. I'm not. So like the channel
Well-
that Nate likes to watch, the Dead Meat.
Yeah.
He does live streams on his editing, and he's chiming in when he's editing. But I'm just sitting here. I'd just get like pissed off, and you'd see like
Yeah.
me like edit for 10 minutes and then
Sure.
play on Facebook for a half hour, because it's usually my.
I guess if you had a
routine.
highlights section of that, then I would watch it. But yeah, a full. But it's just interesting. The whole Dead Meat, that that YouTube channel has blown up over the last year it was.
He just recently
And
passed a
people
year.
love that stuff. Again, I just go back to
Well, his
anyone.
main content is formalized videos,
Right.
And he just does those editing live streams
Right.
as like a side thing for
Right.
people who are interested.
Might as well
in it.
try and make some money off this while I'm doing it.
Yeah. So another thing with like the IRL streaming that I think about is like people who maybe are like younger who can't experience life yet watch a lot of these in real life things. They see these dudes out there like, you know, just living their lives in California and think that that's interesting. So I do think that there is a degree of like a lot of younger kids watching the IRL streamers and sort of chiming into that. But then there's also the dark side of in real life streaming.
Yeah, and just like that Facebook thing that happened a few months ago or last year sometime where that, I don't know, we don't need to talk about that, but
Oh yeah. I know
the
what
murder and it was just crazy. But, you know, like you said, there's the wrong side, but I would seriously watch this guy all the time. Like, and you said it's on Twitch, right? You can watch this stuff on Twitch.
Well, I think he's banned on Twitch now.
Okay.
But yeah, there are, well, Ice Poseidon specifically, but
What
yeah.
did he do? Or did they just not allow it?
No, they allow it. It's just general, you know, not good stuff, like getting in fights and whatnot. There's just a certain extent that you can do on Twitch, and sometimes they just ban you, and sometimes they ban you for no reason anyway, because
Yeah.
Twitch just has a really strict policy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a whole genre on Twitch now. Same thing with YouTube. People do it on both. Now, there's tons of live streaming services, but
Yeah, what Joseph was saying, like, why don't you just live your own life and do your own thing? Like, I always catch myself watching gaming streams all the time. You know, people playing PUBG or sports games or whatever it is. Like, I will watch that while I eat lunch just because I'm doing something else and I want to play, but I'm busy doing this. Why not watch a streamer? Like, it, you know?
And it sounds so weird, and it's so hard to really like explain why you watch. Because like I agree with you, I watch people play video games, and I know a lot of people think that that's really weird.
Yeah, why would you do that?
Like, why would you watch someone else play a video game when you could just do it? And like, I agree, but at the same time, I don't know. It's just like the personality of the person.
Right.
Like, if they're being funny, you know, it kind of changes the game in a way.
Yeah, I think the people who interact with their live chats or just with, you know, within their own videos that they stream, you know, sometimes these people are interesting. Like Magnetron, he's a big, in my opinion, he's a big streamer on Mixer. Mixer, guys? No,
No one watches Mixer.
But anyway, he's very personable and he talks to his, you know, and he's also funny. Like, there's something about him that I like watching, and, you know, he plays PUBG all the time. You know, he was at PAX 2 weeks ago?
That was this weekend.
Yeah, this weekend. And he was live streaming that, and I just caught myself having lunch watching him for 45 minutes. And I'm like, what am I doing? I'm wasting my day, you know, just sitting here watching this guy walk through different booths, talking to people about the stuff they were selling.
It's just fun. I don't know.
Yeah,
So
something about it.
I guess maybe you can think of it as maybe they're living
Vicariously.
a life. Yeah. Like you want this, so you're watching somebody else do it. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that I'm not guilty of things like that, for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely not guilty of a lot of things that I'm going to complain about and talk about here shortly.
Yeah.
But you know, that's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah. The other thing, as far as like this topic with social media, there's a big disconnect with people on social media and then those same people in real life interacting with others. Have you guys kind of seen this with people, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Every day.
Yeah, that it's become very, very apparent, and society has definitely changed in a way to where they're more plugged in than they are aware of what's going on around them, like 20 feet from them. You know, you catch it all the time at Walmart, you know, McDonald's, wherever it is that you go, you see there's people. I mean, you see these memes and these videos of society looking at their phone all the time, and that's all they do. You know, what's the next biggest thing I can look at? What's the next, you know, shock and awe kind of thing? They're so plugged into their phones, they don't know what's going on around them. And then when you do get those people in real life situations, even if it's just a conversation, hey Nate, how's it going? Some of those people, they don't even know how to react or respond. Like their body just tenses up. You know what I mean? And it's just that level of social disconnect. It's just bad. You know, like I don't know if it's bad, but it's just a trending thing I've noticed with a lot of the people that we kind of know from, you know, our professions.
I agree that there's a disconnect, but I'm not one of those people who, I'm not saying you're doing this right now, but there are people who take that and say social media is terrorizing society and it's destroying society.
Right.
And I say, you know, just like good old Uncle Ben said, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
We just talked about this in my ethics class recently in college. And yeah, I think it just depends on who you are, because I would personally say I'm very into social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube.
Right.
literally make YouTube videos. But at the same time, I have no problem talking to people who I've never met or
Right.
being social.
And I would say that's not a majority of people, though, and that's, whatever reasons those are, I guess that's fine. I'm not trying to say like social media and electronic devices are ruining us, because they're not. They're very useful.
Yeah, I mean, some people are just, introverts too.
Right.
So
And that's a big thing I've talked about with some people who I work with. That's just how they are. They don't want to interact with people, so they'd rather do everything in a safe and cozy environment at home.
cozy and safe.
Cozy and safe.
But unfortunately, wouldn't you say you would eventually have to throw yourself into these kinds of situations? Because I feel like in high school, I was incredibly socially awkward. Anyone who went to high school with me, you know what I'm talking about. I was the most awkward. I mean, it was cringy.
I think,
and it was actually when I got my first job at a movie theater where I was forced into talking to random people that I've never met in my everyday life that I started becoming who I truly am. So
Right.
everyone should just, no matter how scared you are of being in those situations, just throw yourself in there.
Right.
And you'll get used to it.
Work a customer service job and you'll open up like a beautiful butterfly.
Yeah.
I find that both true and false, just because you guys are kind of describing me on both ends of that, because I do feel like at some points I'm definitely socially awkward, more so in groups than anything else. But I was thinking about this morning while I was trying to come up with my take on this whole topic. But I think there are two different kinds of people for the most part. There are doers and observers. What I mean by doer is like, say you're throwing a party and you're the host, you're kind of the doer. So you're constantly having to do things, whereas all your guests are the observers. I'm more of a doer. So like when I'm put in a situation like the customer service job where I'm constantly having to do things, I find it a lot easier to interact with people and kind of be more myself, I guess. Whereas if I'm more of an observer, like if I'm the person at the party and I'm not doing things just because, my mind's always going and going and going, I find it a lot harder to talk to people just because I don't know what to say.
Well, right, because there's nothing that's moving you along to the next topic or item or whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah. So
That's why he's a director.
I could see how
Yeah,
that'd
like
be.
when I'm on set, I'm completely in my zone. But I remember being on somebody else's set over the summer. I was just an extra. Like I was an extra at this bar, and I had no idea what the hell to do with myself, because all I had to do was just sit there and act like I was drinking. And I'm just like, do you need something? Like, like what could I be doing besides just sitting here right now? Like when the camera was rolling, obviously I was doing my thing, but a lot of filmmaking is just sitting around and waiting, and I can't do that. Like my brain doesn't work that way. Mm-hmm. So, it's tough for sure. Another point I wanted to make for social media, why I think it's great, because I find that I could network a lot better. I don't know if you guys have done that
For sure.
just with videos or anything like that, because I use it a lot to find actors and crew. I use it to watch content because I watch a lot of YouTube videos, but I also think not necessarily social media is a great learning tool, but a lot of people will post things that are good learning tools, such as certain YouTube videos, because I watch a lot of tutorials and things like that. I look a lot of things up. I get the majority, I'd say probably like 70% of my information from the internet. So the ability to have all that information right in front of me is great. But then there are the downsides, such as people who, and I talk to a lot of people about this, but people who overshare, which I think,
Totally.
you guys are probably well aware of that. You probably have 10 people you can name off right now that overshare their lives a little too much. And I think that is really toxic. And I think most of the problems with social media is not just social media itself, but, toxic people in real life are going to create toxic content.
Oh, yeah. I think you just go to any comment section where there's a controversy or there's a disagreement, it's toxic, and
It's not even that. I mean, just things in general that they're posting. Like, I know a lot of people who post just negative stuff all the time. And I'm not saying like I'm a happy flower all the time, but I mean, it's just over and over and over again. All they're posting is negative stuff. And it's like, well, man, like,
right.
Why
What's
are you
going
doing
on?
this?
Yeah.
Like, and I know it's because people need to feel liked and loved all the time. But, I feel like that's what's causing a lot of the depression and anxiety that you hear about a lot now from social media is, because they're looking for that thing. If they're not getting those likes,
That
by the
validation,
way, like and subscribe our page.
And
I just feel like that's a huge problem.
yeah, there's a correlation that we can make here with negative stuff on social media being the majority with news. And, because everyone always says the majority of news is very negative. the news tends to focus a lot on the negative
Right.
shootings,
Yeah.
robberies, crime, terrorism. And the reason that is because it gets the clicks. So
It gets the clicks, yeah.
So why do you think that people search for that negative stuff? Because when you go to a news page, there's positive news on there, but it doesn't get any clicks. So the headlines and all that, it's going to be super negative stuff because that's what gets the most traffic. So why do you think people have a longing to go and find all this negative information? It's kind of weird because then these same people go around and complain that the news and everything,
Right, the
media
world's
in
going to
general
shit.
is just
Yeah.
all negative.
Yeah. I think, part of me wants to believe that there's more people doing good than there are people doing bad out there in the world. And, I just think it's unfortunate that people kind of seek out bad stuff that's going on either locally or across the nation, in the news. I turn it off all the time. Anytime the news comes on at home or I'm watching the Cubs game and then it's over. Oh, right here, 10 o'clock news, so-and-so got shot and this guy got, murdered and all this other stuff. I don't want to hear any of that. So like for me, I don't give it the time of day, but for whatever reason, people like that kind of stuff. Whether it's, I don't know why those clicks get what they get, but people, just something about this that people like, it just draws them to it and they just want to keep watching.
I think that to a certain degree, negative news is necessary because you don't want to live in a bubble where you think that, everything is sunshine and rainbows. I do agree that a lot of the news that is pushed out to the forward, front of things is extremely negative, but I still think to some degree it's important to stay in touch with that.
That's
and
how
not,
you make a change.
and not lose sight of, or just being ignorant to what's going on. But at the same time, it is kind of depressing when all you see is violence and war and everything on the news, and you don't really see a lot of positivity. But I think there's positivity out there in the news. You just have to look for it a little bit harder. And I think as long as you can apply yourself to that, then you can get a pretty fair and balanced
and that's
dose of reality.
Yeah.
That's a big
Because-
thing for me I want to be informed, but I don't want to be oversaturated with this or that, whether it be positive or negative. I feel like there needs to be a good balance for whatever it is you're looking at.
I think part of that too is because if we're just going with internet news, most of what you're probably going to see is going to be the negative stuff if you consistently click on that negative stuff.
Oh yeah.
So, because that's how those, like Facebook, for instance, them going through all this privacy stuff, which, I just going off topic here for a second, are we all really surprised about this?
No.
No,
Google Chrome does the same thing. Are people really surprised that your
Yeah.
information
Like,
is being
when-
traced online?
when
Yeah,
I
I'm
take
not.
a quiz about what type of garlic bread I am, I know what I'm getting into. I know that they're getting my information.
Yeah, it's you have to click on the thing that says, hey, we're going to have access to your Facebook profile picture or Facebook profile or whatever. And people click on that, and I'm just the whole time all of this stuff's going on, I'm like, were you guys not reading that? Were you not processing what that meant?
Nope,
Because
it's like, fuck this. We got to get to,
Yeah.
Yeah, get ready for what's coming.
However, I think, though, regardless, all of your information is out there somewhere anyway.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
you're not gonna-
If someone wants it, they're gonna get it.
You don't win.
At this day and age, you pretty much have zero privacy.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if you're not on social media, because for instance, the Equifax leak, you're probably on Equifax, or you're probably somewhere. It doesn't matter where you are. Your information's probably leaked somewhere. You just have to be diligent about protecting yourself. And, there's only so much that you can do, but, being inactive about it is, part of the problem.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that what these corporations do, it's called data mining. That's the official term for it. It's completely unethical. We're not trying to say, they get a free pass. It's completely unethical, but
True.
maybe this is a question. Should privacy be given up to be on social media? And why are you posting private information? Why are you putting in all this information that you don't want leaked onto the internet? Has everyone forgotten elementary school growing up and all of the internet safety things that we learned? Make sure you don't put this, putting where you work. You could type into Facebook Justin, and then insert the place that I work. Don't want to say it on here, and then it'll pop up.
Right.
It's crazy, honestly.
I think to some degree with your question, you do give up your privacy in a way.
Yeah, as soon as you hit that enter button.
When you do create a Facebook profile or something like that.
Yeah.
Especially with just even the general questions it asks you. You could find out someone's birthday say, who they're with, where they work, like all sorts of stuff that I feel like beforehand was kind of like something you didn't really like put out there for everyone to see. But again, like when you're creating your profile, you're like, oh, it's fun and cool to add this stuff because like I want to show off my significant other and I want to be like, yeah, this is where I work. Like I'm proud of that.
Well, speaking of internet and social media, there's a term thrown around all over the place ever since the last presidential election. That term being fake news. Now, my question to you guys and the audience is, when you hear the term fake news, do you think of news stations that are pretty much just reporting false facts or information that is just not true whatsoever? Or do you think of fake news being news stations that report factual information that is true, but they're shaping it in a way that is clearly biased or misleading?
So Shredy's take on this, I think it's kind of half and half. So I want to give kind of an example of that because I really feel like these big news sources sort of get some of their news from other big news sources. So the example that I was talking about is there was this guy who on Twitter wrote that CNN broadcasted 30 minutes of hardcore porn on their main station. A lot of other big news sources also reported on this, this was a hot topic for apparently the day that this happened, but it turned out not to be real. So we learned that, sometimes these places like, I don't know who reported on it, but say, like the Washington Post were to see the New York Times report on something big, they're probably going to trust the New York Times to be a legitimate place for that kind of content.
Right.
So like I said, I feel like it's kind of half and half. I feel like they probably do have some sort of agenda, such as, there's the whole thing that Fox News is very Republican and one-sided on, their opinions about everything. But I think it really depends on the news source. But yeah, that's my take on it.
What you're saying there, Sredy, is a direct result of social media and the internet in general just being instant. Like, you got to be the first. If there's a big story, we got to get out there right away, especially on the internet. Because back in the day, newspaper, you had time to sit down and validate everything, validate all your sources, the factual information. So now that, we got to be the first, we got a big story here. We got to get it out
revenue.
there. So I think that's just directly a result of just social media in general, just being instant. Everything is instant.
And I'm not trying to say that these other news sources are kind of in the right about what they're doing, because they should be a little bit better about fact checking. Because right now they're starting to do things like how a lot of these people that we know on social media are sharing these links that, are just from completely illegitimate sources.
Right.
And one of the things that we were talking about before the show was a lot of these fake posters that show up on Facebook for movies.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the big ones right now that I saw recently was a poster for the 2020 movie Harry Potter and the Cursed Child Part 1, or just Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, which if you think about it real hard for, 5 seconds, you're going to think, oh, this is probably not real, especially from the Facebook page where it came from, which was like Harry Potter fans or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, if I always instantly go to IMDb or Variety or, one of the major movie news networks to, fact check everything. And you would think that not even just the movie websites, but just everywhere would be reporting that there's a new Harry Potter movie coming out.
Right. It boggles my mind to this day that people still can't tell the difference between like a real image and something that's clearly photoshopped. I feel like you don't even have to know how to use Photoshop or really even know what it is to be able to tell when something is clearly a doctored image. Like, you're just like, oh, I recognize that image from this. It's literally the plot line of Spider-Man 3 where they try and frame Spider-Man into being a bank robber.
Yeah.
And it's just a Photoshopped image.
Uh-huh.
Literally the same thing. And it's just weird that people, I don't know, to me it's weird that people can't tell when something is clearly fake.
At the same time, there's people that are very, very good at Photoshop.
Right.
And an example I'll bring up, a recent one, regardless of your opinion on the whole gun violence, gun control, Florida,
that's next week, right? We're talking about that next week.
The photoshopped image of them burning the Constitution was actually them burning like do you know what I'm talking about?
Not really.
Are you talking about the I kind of spaced out for a second. The Florida shooting.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
the
and
girl
like those
burning the
students who are
Constitution.
like activists now,
Right,
and
yeah.
there's a Photoshop image of they're like burning something, but it's not the Constitution, and somebody photoshopped like the Constitution as what they were burning, and it literally went viral, and it was like a falsified image.
And so many people will post things just based on emotion. Like if they agree with it, like, oh, those kids are, who are these kids to talk about our Second Amendment rights? We know what we're doing with our guns. We know how to handle them. So we're going to bash these kids and send that link on to the next, to all my friends who also agree that we shouldn't be taking away the Second Amendment right.
Right.
Emotion plays a big role on what how fake news or just news in general gets distributed, whether it's real or fake, you know what I mean? So it's just like a lot of people play on that. One person sends it to 2 people, 2 to 4, and it just spreads.
And
it's quick.
Yeah, and like you guys said, nobody reads the articles. They just read the headline and click share.
Yeah, if they like
or
it, if they
retweet.
agree with it, they're going to share it.
So you see, at least for me, I'm sure you guys see this a lot too, but like during the 2016 election, or just like when a lot of these gun violence events are happening, they post these links about exactly what you were talking about, things that they agree upon, and then you go and you look at the link, which is always at the bottom of the image, for the thing you click on.
Yeah.
And it's something stupid like conservativenews.com or conservative news, definitely not
Breitbart.
I
Definitely
am
not
a
fake.
Republican.blogspot.
Definitely not fake news.net.
Yeah.
Like it just, people don't like click on the information, and you need multiple sources.
Right.
Like I don't go, before I start talking about something, I want to gather up as much information as I can. And a lot of these people on social media, I don't want to say ignorant, but
They're lazy.
they're
That's what
lazy.
it is.
And it's like it's going right back to middle school and high school, when our teachers were nagging us all the time about citing our sources and getting multiple sources, because in order to form an educated opinion, you need multiple sources from places that are legitimate.
Yeah, but that don't matter anymore, because if I agree with it, it's true.
Right.
Yeah, and speaking of like news and news stations having biases, I actually know one of my classmates is a news producer for WSBT. That's more in the northern Indiana, Michigan area, and she told me that, and this is common through every news source ever, is that you'll get stories from the higher ups that you have to post, or you have to run this
Right.
story from like foreign, like people you've never met, of like the higher ups within the company, and everyone who watches the news deserves an unbiased look on the story. That's what news should be. You report a story, you watch something, and then you make up your mind. It's not, nobody should be shaping
Your thoughts,
your
yeah.
opinion or your thoughts a certain way. And that is why, me personally, I suggest AP to you guys, alternative press. There's plenty of different ways to measure how biased a news corporation is, but AP seems to be one of the most unbiased news sources that is still mainstream. So highly recommend
Yeah,
AP.
there's a huge problem with telling people how to think instead of just saying, well, this is my opinion about this. Here are the facts. Here are my opinions. And a lot of these news sources are not doing that. So, that's a huge problem. And I feel like that's why a lot of these people are sharing these things. A lot of these fake articles and things like that is because, it forms to their opinion, and these people agree, or these news stations or wherever they're getting their information from mold around their opinion. So it's, I don't know, it's
And
silly.
it's all they follow too.
Yeah,
You're
they
only
don't-
going to follow and watch
Right.
with what you agree with. Nobody ever wants to listen to another viewpoint. And that goes to what you were saying, Steve, about emotion. Because if you haven't noticed, nobody can have a civil discussion about politics, because if you have this opinion, you're evil.
Right.
If you have this opinion, you're,
Right.
you're a bigot.
Yeah.
It's everything is so emotional, and there's so much labeling and name calling
Right.
that you just can't have a civil discussion about any political things
Yeah,
anymore.
my cousin-in-law, he leans to the right. He's a big Donald Trump fan. He's a Second Amendment guy, all that kind of stuff. It's just weird that I'm able to sit down and have an hour conversation at his house about whatever it is. And most when it comes to politics, it's very civil, because he knows I lean a little bit more to the left, on the Democratic side, and a little bit more liberal on things. But when we have that conversation, we actually like hear each other out, and it's you don't get that very often with people. I mean, you can go to the restaurant, you can run into people at Walmart wearing a certain shirt, and that triggers someone to have an emotional argument and say, "Why this is why you're bad, this is why you're good." It's not, "Hey, let's talk sides, let's hear what you have to say." It's just an argument. But there are those few people who you can actually have a conversation with regarding politics and it be civil.
That's one of the things that I was going to bring up earlier about just the internet in general and kind of being disconnected from people is I would prefer to like think about what I'm going to say for a little bit before I actually say it, which, doesn't really work in real world
I wish more
conversations.
people did that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I definitely prefer to, like I said, do my research, try and form my opinion. So, even if I'm wrong, at least I thought about what I was trying to say.
I just, it just needs to be more like that. I think people need to take their time and kind of write down what, you don't have to write down, but just make an educated comment, make it informative, and make it something where people have a say so without jumping each other's throats.
I think there's also too much branding going on, and that's why I pretty much heavily disagree with the two-party system that we have here in the United States. Me, myself, I lean more middle. I consider myself libertarian. I vote libertarian. And I just hate the Democrat versus Republican ideology that everyone has, because just because you're a Democrat doesn't mean you have every single like liberal criteria of what your beliefs are. Like there are Democrats who don't believe in abortion or something like that. And same thing, not every Republican agrees with every single Republican ideology. So I think there's just way too much of assuming going on as well, and people just can't handle different opinions.
I think in the day of the internet as well is that people just lack respect for other people.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge part of it.
Right.
Because it just comes down to just listening to what people have to say, whether you agree with them or not.
Yeah.
You don't have to agree with somebody, but you can at least see their viewpoint and why they feel that the way that they do.
Yeah, you could probably actually grow from it too.
Right.
If you just listen to somebody, that goes a long way.
True. So,
so back to social media. We kind of went off on a little tangent.
That's all right. I like the tangents.
Yeah.
So another thing that I wanted to talk about as far as social media, and I think this is something that you guys probably have noticed as well, because we're all, I want to say that we all indulge in the meme culture a lot, is that I feel like a lot more people are talking about these social issues that they have and like all these psychological issues as far as like anxiety and depression and things like that. And they're all kind of joking about it a little more than I care for. Like a lot of memes that I see are about how introverted people are and how much they hate talking to other people and how much they hate going outside.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't know what kind of person you guys consider yourself, but I'm definitely an introvert. So like that's a part of myself that I don't really like. I'd like to be more out and open, but it's hard for me. I don't really have any reason why. I mean, I probably do, but that's deep into my subconscious, that I'd have to probably seek help to figure out.
when I see like, people sharing depression memes and this and that, it's I mean, I want to believe that everyone out there that says that stuff is being honest, but obviously I think to some degree there's a bunch of people who are just trying to get a little bit of attention maybe with sharing like, oh, I'm so depressed or this and that.
But it's everybody.
Right.
Like everybody. Like all these memes, like they're all the same. They're all about...
Do you think these people are actually have these issues, or do you think they just
I
find
think
humor in them?
I think to an extent, because, if you're heavily involved in social media, I feel like you probably do have some sort of anxiety or something like that, to where you're constantly worrying about what people think about you and things like that. So if you're making these memes or sharing these memes, you're kind of connecting with people. You're like, oh, you have this problem? Oh, look, so do I. Here's this SpongeBob meme, or something like that,
I think maybe there's a lot of people I know who deal with whatever they have with memes as a, as a coping mechanism. They use humor to kind of mask it, because it's, I wouldn't say that it's not bad, but it's probably not as bad as they think it is, but they find it easier to cope with a little bit of humor.
Yeah, I think over-exaggerating slightly is just, there's humor in over-exaggerating like pretty simple things like that. Like, I don't know, awkward situations.
Yeah.
I'm not really familiar with these memes you guys are talking about.
Yeah, I think there's a clear difference between the memes that have a picture, have a font that, kind of have a little joke in there, as opposed to the post that says, I'm done. From, say you see it from one of your friends on Facebook or whatever, it just says, I'm done. Okay, that kind of leaves people in suspense. What are they talking about? Are they done with a project? Are they done working for the for the week? Are they done with their lives? What is it that, sometimes people leave that little bit of suspense and a little bit of darkness to it.
Well, no, I don't even think that, because a lot of the memes that I see now are how much people want to die. Like, I don't know, have you guys seen those?
Yeah,
like,
I know what you're
I
talking
just
about.
I just wish I was dead and
Right.
oh man,
well,
I just want to die right now. Like, it's
Yeah, those types of memes I would totally say ultra sarcasm.
Right. I don't.
No.
I wouldn't take those. I don't take those as personal, or not personal, as serious as, say, like I'm trying, I want to be done with everything, or my life, or people can get descriptive real quick in a few words, and I feel like those are the people who need either some help or need to be watched at, after, or whatever it is. But
And that's I
feel
like
like that's more serious.
it's real difficult to tell the difference between those who are genuine about it and those who are being disingenuous about it. And that's the kind of the problem I have with that, is you can't tell. And I mean, everybody copes with their nonsense in their own way, but you just can't tell who's being honest and who's not.
Right. And I think that also comes back to what we were talking about earlier with the social disconnect. Like, that's how they deal with it. They don't know how to go to a professional or ask their parent or loved one, hey, I need help. Can you help me? I need to find some sort of therapy or whatever it is. They just kind of joke about it because they don't really know how to address it, and that's a problem that people need to pay attention to.
Yeah, I was going to say, a lot of this, like meme sharing, like the memes like this, I feel like there could be people that are actually affected, but like there's a negative stigma for people who want to get help with their mental issues. You
Right.
always hear people saying like, oh, it's just in your head, or just be happy. That's all you got to do. And it's clearly not that simple, but
Right.
there's always that negative connotation of like, well, if
Right.
I go and get help, I'm going to look like, people are
weirdo,
going to look
yeah.
like I'm crazy, I'm weird. Like if I have to take medicine for this stuff, like people are going to think even worse of me. And I think that is like what's really stupid about all of this, is there should never be a stigma about wanting to get help if you
Right.
actually feel like something is going wrong with you.
Right.
So
Yeah.
then they share these memes that are kind of like could honestly be like a cry for help in some way, or like you said, a coping mechanism, and just people are just kind of like, oh, haha, laugh it
Right.
off.
It's silly to me that people look at physical issues differently than mental issues. Issues you can't see physically. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because if you can't see it, it's not real.
Right, and that's where that stigma comes in. It's just like, oh, is Nate really
Climate
having
change?
these issues this week?
Exactly.
As opposed to, oh, Nate's knee's broken. I can see that. Let's fix you. Let's help you.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I can't see your mental state,
And,
so
and
it's
that
not that
literally
big of a deal.
goes back to like ancient
Right.
civilizations thinking that you're possessed by a demon because you actually have some sort of like mental schizophrenia or whatever. Like
Yeah.
that has, what you guys are talking about has been around since the dawn of man.
Yeah.
And what everyone does is they blame everything except for what it actually is.
Right.
But in terms of like these jokes, like what I started thinking about was like, okay, someone gives you a pile of work, they just plop it on your desk and you say, oh, kill me now. Like that kind of joke. Like, is that what you're talking about? Or...
No, I'm just talking about people who are just like, I just want to die. Like, I see that a lot.
Those are memes you see?
Yeah.
See,
See, I'm not seeing these
I don't see
memes.
those. I see, every once in a while.
Apparently, we're all talking to different people.
Well, it's and that's fine. I mean, that's what happens. But when it
there's
comes
there's
to
never context.
I
to what
want to
we say.
die, it's just a post. It's not attached to a picture. Again, that's where I come back to. That's a little bit more of a serious. That could be more of a serious issue
Yeah.
that needs to be looked at.
I don't see it just with people I know. I also see it with just when I'm looking at memes and things like that. Like, there's just usually no context to it, and it just
It's just fake news. Don't worry about it.
Too much fake news in this world. I'm gonna die. I want to die.
Yeah, you got to credit the source. Where
True news.
True news.
Hashtag true
Yeah, why
news.
aren't we
Let's start
starting-
that.
Let's start hashtag
Yeah.
true news.
True
Get
news.
it here trending on
Genuine.
Twitter.
Yeah.
So is this a good place? We where we want to be, boys?
Yeah, I think we're good for the
Yeah, that's
evening.
good for this week.
How are you guys, audience?
Yeah, what does our audience think?
Yeah,
Do
let us
you guys
know
think we should
down in the comments
shut
below.
that all up already? Do you agree with what we're talking about? Do you think we're all idiots?
Did you listen this far?
Did you listen this far? Because if you did, you'd notice we're probably having some audio issues.
Yeah.
Well, boys, I hear old Mary Todd calling.
So it must be time for bed.
This is going to be the end of this episode of the Low Side Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Of course, you can find us all across the internet at the Low Side Podcast or just Low Side Podcast. So check us out, participate in our random Twitter polls. I'm Nate. I've been joined with Steve,
True news.
Sredy,
Peace.
and our very special guest, Justin. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, boys. It's been a blast.
I'm sure you'll be back on at some point, but until next
Yeah, it was
time,
fun.
we will see you guys later.